Steve Jobs did it. He was documented. His partner said they would have non-ejaculatory sex, and he would literally say, I need to keep that for my power and my business, my creativity. He understood, and he knew that actually, if you want to be a great businessman, you need to be in flow, you need to be in a great rhythm, and you cannot be depleting yourself of your power. So imagine if the businessmen of the world were to practice semen retention, we would get more trading, more economy, more creativity, more solutions to problems. If semen retention was practiced by the masses, you would get way more, your labor force would be insane. Like, you imagine a bunch of men hopped up with high testosterone, and we've seen that as a bad thing.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Beyond podcast. Today we have a very special guest here, Nikola Das, the founder of Nakula Training Grounds. It's an interfaith community for men's ministry, helping men master their sexual energy, really unleash their God-given abilities. Nakula created a platform for men, over 3,000 men altogether, who came through his various programs, and he has reached in just 4 years over 3 million people with his message of transmutation. Nakula and myself in my life, I think 3 years ago, I listened to a podcast from Namras and got very inspired. Many of you know I was a monk myself. I practice semen retention. I try to practice semen retention since 13 years. Nakula played a big role actually after my monk life to help me to deal with my sexual urges and to direct them in a very positive, constructive and creative way. So I'm very grateful to have you here today. And maybe you can introduce yourself, where you're from, what's your story, and why you're here today.
Sure. Thank you. Well, first of all, congratulations on the podcast. And yeah, I remember connecting, and like so many people heard from me from the Namarasa podcast. I'm going to do a little plug for Namarasa as well, just because he's, a brother. I went back and I met him in person in New Jersey, and we recorded a part 2. So Namarasa will be releasing a podcast with myself talking specifically about adult content and how that's affecting those that are, spiritual seekers and those from our shared community of Krishna consciousness. And I'm just so happy that I was able to play a role in your life as well. I think as a coach and as a trainer, that's what it's all about. It's all about making a difference in people's lives and uplifting people. And my heart just sings. As far as where I'm from, the spiritual planets. No, I'm just joking. I'm trying to get back there. But physically, I'm from St. John, New Brunswick, a little town on the east coast of Canada. There's about 150,000 of us. We're right on the Atlantic Ocean. It's a beautiful place. So if you ever visit Canada, make sure you reach out and come visit me. And how I got into this was through my own journey. I grew up in the depths of, material consciousness, smoking weed, chasing girls, partying, drinking. My heroes were 50 Cent and Tupac Shakur. And yours too? Oh, amazing. Perfect. Yeah. I had a massive lifestyle Tupac poster in my room. Yeah. And so that was he was like my demigod, he was like Tupac, and then eventually I was a G Unit fan, right? And that culture, hip hop culture, it's just loaded with messages of smoke weed and, get laid and get paid kind of attitude, right? And I can't say I was doing either one of them that well, but the illusion was I was trying, right? And so, like so many of us that begin to seek higher things, I was trying to extract so much from the material world, right? How many drugs, chasing girls, partying, alcohol, all that kind of stuff that the world tells you this is what's going to make you happy. And if you look around, it's generally what everybody's doing. And so I just followed along like everybody else. I'm nothing special, just followed along. But I did have a realization after, I went through some challenges, a car accident, financial problems, all kinds of different issues, and, recognized that this isn't working. This is not working. And that's why I actually I had a tremendous experience. I was trying to quit marijuana, which has been a huge battle in my life. I'd say out of
Yeah.
everything, my biggest battle, everybody's got their own thing. My biggest battle has been with marijuana.
Me
And
too.
so,
It's mine too.
oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
trying to quit and I was trying to quit. And so I actually was following this lady, a Canadian native shaman. And I always tell people, God can work in such mysterious ways and through all kinds of people. He's not limited to a particular religion or a particular path. He's omniscient. And so I was following this Canadian native shaman called Eagle Spirit Journeys. And I thought I had this nudge, this inspiration. Go see her. She can help you get through this withdrawal symptoms that I was feeling. Because at that point, I had been smoking dope for like 10 years straight, like heavy too. Like get up in the morning, first thing do, smoke. It's kind of like that's how you set the day. Get high and then go to work. Right?
Yeah, I know, I know.
Right? That's always it, right? And so I was like trying to quit, and I was just going through this immense like withdrawals, and so I went, and I remember going like driving to go see her, and in my little voice, and I call this the spiritual battle, right? We all know it, the angel and the devil, or the skeptic. Like I'm like, what am I doing? I'm going to see a native Canadian shaman. Like, how much is this going to cost me? Right? Like, I don't even have money for this. All the things that
Mm.
our own little voice or the opposition can tell us to keep our lives small and to keep us the same. So I was literally driving to her, going through all this inner battle. But I was just like, no, I'm just going to go. I'm already on my way. I got to do something. So I went to see her, and as soon as I came in her presence, it was like she had just such a presence about her, something really deep and spiritual about her. So anyway, she did this tremendous healing session, and she actually prayed a prayer over me that she invoked the name of Jesus Christ.
Mm.
And she said this prayer invoking the name of Jesus Christ. And when I got off that table, I knew what it meant to be born again. And it has nothing to do with taking on a label or taking on an identity, but it was like a renewal of my spirit, of my heart. And I remember literally saying, I carry the frustrations of my father. And it didn't mean my physical father, yes, somewhat, but it meant my whole lineage. All this anger, all this frustration that I had been carrying my whole life that I've been trying to deal with. It was like in that moment, God had like just released me of it. Like I felt forgiven. I felt like I had got a new heart and mind. And for the next few days, I was totally blissed out. I was like seeing the waves of energy in the morning, naturally waking up early, naturally just like doing all the things that they say you should do. I was just doing naturally. And then that lasted for a good several months where I thought I was an enlightened soul. I was like, I'm definitely Buddha. I'm just joking, right? And then all of a sudden, it was like a little bit of weed started coming back in and a little bit of.
Sure.
And that moment has never left me. But I also started to fall back into my old ways. And even though I never got so entangled, I then went on this whole journey because what I felt happened was that God gave me a glimpse of maybe what a Jesus Christ or a Buddha or somebody like this may be experiencing, but I didn't maintain it. And that's what really launched me into my spiritual path. It was shortly after that I picked up the Bhagavad Gita and I read the Bhagavad Gita and I said, oh, there is wisdom here. Wisdom that I didn't find in other places. I grew up Christian. And so I picked up the Bhagavad Gita and I found some tremendous wisdom there. And I spent time with Shambhala Buddhists. And I've still, I don't care about the label. Like people get caught up on that, right? They ask me all the time, what are you? And I'm like, a soul, servant of God. But if I had to give myself a label, I joke and say, I'm a Hare Christian.
Hare Krishna, yeah.
Right? Like I wear the Tulsi Mala, but then I have my cross. I preach at my church and I preach at devotee communities. I just go wherever God sends me. And I just let other people worry about the labels. But I found tremendous wisdom in the Vedic knowledge. And understanding that we have to regulate. We have to regulate. And one of the main principles that specifically Srila Prabhupada in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition speaks of is no illicit sex. And when I started to study about what does it mean, no illicit sex, and how do I really unleash my potential? Because I love the idea of getting into flow. I love that because that's what I wanted. How do I get into flow? How do I unleash everything that God? I know that if I'm alive, just like you, just like anybody listening to us, if you're alive listening to this, you have purpose. God has placed intelligence. He's endowed you with some of his qualities, intelligence and beauty and wisdom and strength. And you have so much that he's given you, especially in the human form of life. I really was like, wanted to unleash that, to actualize myself. And so I was willing to follow these principles to try to get to that. And I recognized in that path that the sex principle was very difficult because at the time I was still watching adult content online. I was still self-pleasuring. I was depleting myself. And, in my mind, I was like, because of all of the adult content and everything, I was just like, I would fantasize and get into the worlds of fantasies and all of this stuff that's just so common in today's world.
Yeah.
And I was really struggling, and I'm not a monk, right? I'm married, and I said, how do I do this? How do I practice chastity? How do I practice retention? Because it is said in multiple traditions. In the Vedic literature, it talks about how important the semen is. In the Ayurveda school, it talks about it. In the Bible, there's a direct, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is in the book of Galatians. Paul, in his letters, writes to the people of Galatia. He says in chapter 5, verse 13, he talks about the battle between the spirit and the flesh and how they battle. It's contradictory, the flesh and the spirit, and how we must not give into sexual immortality. So we have to have integrity around sexuality. So you can see in all traditions, it's actually a unifying factor amongst all religions. Is no illicit sex. They all agree.
Yeah. It was common a few hundred years ago. You get married, you have your wife.
Yeah, very common. It's only in this recent times that we're like, I call it the modern Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Like we're just like, modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, And I wouldn't have thought anything of it unless I searched for higher wisdom and wanted to get into flow and recognized how much the misuse of my sexual energy was taking me out of flow. And so I got introduced to the concept of sexual transmutation through the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, right? Chapter 11, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation, and then got reinforced through the Vedic knowledge and got reinforced through the Bible. And then I started to learn athletes do this. Top athletes do this. Fighters do this. Muhammad Ali did this. Steve Jobs did it. Men at elite levels, they all practice some form of controlling this energy. And it was so important. So I did a deep dive, which I'm still diving and learning. And as I went through my own journey, because I'm a trainer by trade, I'm a sales coach and trainer by trade and business trainer. I've been for over a decade. I married everything I learned about training and coaching, and I married it with the semen retention process and to put an actual training process together to teach men how to elevate themselves from watching adult content locked away in their room to giving that up, to eventually transmuting self-pleasure, till eventually learning to become a great lover and showing up in a wonderful way of intimacy, and then learning how to use that energy outside the bedroom to create the lifestyles they want, and then ultimately at the highest level, how to use that energy for God realization.
Wow. Yeah, I can hear your words, feel your words. I remember when I first saw you on the podcast with Namras, and I was so inspired because you have this male energy, strong voice, and this effulgence, and you walk your talk. You're not just saying some empty, um, giving us some empty message. You can really feel there's something more to it. And I was myself a monk, and when the monks really practice celibacy, semen retention, and also use this energy, not sometimes happens in nighttime. You lose the
Hmm.
semen and then you're depleted again. You have no energy. You're depressed. You lament. You go into this yeah dark zones of I'm so this shame and guilt is still
Mm.
there. Yeah,
Yes.
even if you're not consciously self pleasure. And I could see when the monks were really following strictly, and you can feel their vibe, their energy. They were effulgence. Yeah,
Mm.
and you have this
Yeah.
hollow in all the traditions. And you can always see celibacy, fasting, meditation, prayers. Yeah. And people can immediately feel it. It shows in the aura, the ojas. Yeah.
Yes.
It shows in the aura. And for myself in my life, it was difficult being a monk because where I come from is exactly where you came from. Yeah. Drug, sex, and porn. Yeah. That was my whole life all about watching pornos, smoking weed, even other drugs.
Hmm.
And for me, people who didn't indulge in that, for me, they were crazy. What else to do with life? Yeah, other
Yeah.
than having sex and smoking weed. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the first thing in the morning, I smoked a joint. I went to work, same like you.
Wow.
And I also got the Bhagavad Gita from a monk on the street. And first time in my life, I heard about the concept of being a monk, being brahmacharya.
Yeah.
Don't waste your semen. Engage your sexual urges in a healthy way. Get married with one partner or become a monk. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But I was so inspired because I was looking for something more deeper. Yeah. And I mean, we smoking weed. We want some love. We want some feelings, some emotions. We want to escape the reality because it's hard out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need some pleasure. Yeah. And then I saw first time in my life something so valuable to really experience deeper spiritual emotions. Yeah. Not just in meditations. I could really connect with people, like-minded people who practice celibacy, who have a deep understanding of Vedic wisdom, about other traditions, religions, about themselves, about God, about the world. And then it really helped me also to practice. I mean, in that point, I didn't call it semen retention. It was
Yeah.
just living as a monk.
Yeah.
And it helped me so much. I could feel how everything goes deeper, how you have more energy, you're more focused, you're more clear, you get more things done, you're not tired, you talk to people, people can feel you, listen to you. Yeah.
Yes.
And so many more things. And then somebody told me, hey, I feel like you're always in flow. And this was the first time I heard this concept about flow. Yeah.
Mm.
And then I realized because of my spiritual practice about not losing my semen. Yeah. And then this journey of flow started. I got married at one point, and now I'm a family man. And now I try to really understand the principle of flow, of celibacy in marriage life.
Mm.
So, how can we use semen retention? How does it help men or people in general to access flow, to be really in the present moment, to be fulfilled, to feel complete, to feel harmonious, joyful? What's the secret? What's the whole science behind semen retention?
Sure. Thank you. Um, so let's start like at a biological level, right? And just go with that at first. So every time that a man ejaculates, he releases prolactin in his system. Prolactin is why when you after you finish ejaculating, you just want to go to sleep. You know,
Yeah.
right? Right. It's like, I'm done, tired, right? It's because, in a way, nature is like saying, hey, you've done your biological duty. So if we look at it strictly from a biological perspective, it is the duty of a man to ejaculate. But the ejaculation, the nature of an ejaculation is for procreation. It's not for our pleasure. And that's the first thing that we have to understand that goes against modern culture, right? That's why I could totally relate. Like there was a point in my life, if you said, you know, you're going to practice semen retention and teach men to be chaste, I was going to be like, heck no. I got nothing. I don't want nothing to do with that. Or if you even mentioned God, I would have been like, oh, that's just nonsense, you know? So I can understand like where the mindset is because I was in that and I empathize. I get it. I'm just like, that's why I don't want to judge people or think that,
Yeah.
you know, we should. It's like, hey, look, everybody's looking for happiness. Everybody.
Mm.
Some people are looking for it in God. Some people are looking it for in the bottle, you know, or the adult content, you know, and so we all want the same thing. So the reason that one mistake that we've made in the modern world is that because it's pleasurable, we are addicted to pleasure in a way. And that's because we know that the soul's natural state is pleasure, but we mistake the body, we mistake ourselves to being the body. So we're trying to extract as much pleasure from the body as possible. But the nature of ejaculation, like what is the purpose of it, is actually to create a baby. So therefore, ejaculation is ultimately to create babies. When a man ejaculates, the biology, the physical apparatus, the machinery doesn't know whether you've ejaculated for the purpose of creating a baby or because you were watching online content or whatever it is. It just knows you ejaculated, and just like a trigger, it just like, oh, ejaculation, prolactin. Now,
Mm.
prolactin is why you feel tired, and prolactin is like kind of like your body going, oh, okay, he did his biological duty today. There's potential that our DNA can move forward and create new life. Challenge is that in nature, nobody would be having that much S3X. Like nobody would be, if you were just simply ejaculating for the purpose of a baby, you would not be ejaculating on a daily basis. Even if
Yeah.
you were like Casanova, you know, you were the alpha of all alpha males, you would still have some regulation just by nature. Because if you just went with ejaculation with a partner, right away there's going to be a regulation.
Mm.
So what happens is when a man ejaculates, this prolactin is released, and that prolactin actually tells the body to also stop producing testosterone for a few. So because it's like, hey, testosterone is what makes us masculine, what makes us men. And because you've done your biological duty, it's kind of saying, hey, you can chill out for a little bit. That's why you want to chill out after you ejaculate, because you're just like, I got to chill out now. This prolactin stifles testosterone growth. Now imagine that if you are ejaculating constantly, you are constantly stifling your production of testosterone. Therefore, you're stifling the very hormone that's giving you your masculine qualities. It's proven, it's already known that our generation has less testosterone levels than our fathers and our grandfathers. And what modern medicine has done is they've lowered the standards. But what we're saying is don't lower the standards. Let's take a look at why that is. One is massively has to do with the amount of self-pleasuring through adult content online and then overall lifestyle. So here's what happens. When you practice semen retention, and this is a bit different for every man, there's variables, right? Depending on your weight, body fat percentage, lifestyle, all kinds of variables. But generally speaking, between 7 to 10 to 14 days, as a man retains, his body, his own biology is going to say, hey, this guy's not being fruitful and multiplying. We've had no chance to procreate. So we got to make him a little bit more attractive. So what the body does is it stimulates the testicles to produce more testosterone. And this is where you get a testosterone boost. And this is where guys feel that like, whoa, all right?
Without trees.
Yeah.
Under
Whoa.
the world, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I want to
it
rule the
makes sense.
world. Yeah,
It's nature, the way nature is made, that we can reproduce and recreate.
that's right. So
Yeah.
the body goes, here's some testosterone to get you going. And testosterone increases your masculine qualities. So what it does is essentially it increases the amount of testosterone flowing through your body, which then therefore increases your energy and your drive. Now, what also happens with semen retention is if you start to extend, you really regulate it 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, and longer, is that the body's constantly creating semen. So according to Ayurveda, whatever you ate roughly about 30 days ago is going through these 7 layers of refinement called dutas. And it's going through these refinements all the way till it refines to bone, bone becomes marrow, and from marrow, it drips out semen. So what is semen? Semen is concentrated blood or refined or purified blood. So the practice of flow and being ultimately at your best starts with what you eat, because what you eat gets refined into the different layers of your body, your muscle, your tissue, your bone, your marrow, and then the best stuff, proteins, enzymes, nutrients, phosphate, zinc, all your best stuff gets poured into the semen, and the semen is then stored for the potential of giving the right nutrients mixed with the sperm to create the best chance for life. So it has everything to do with reproduction. Now, when you practice semen retention, you begin to retain that energy. The body's still creating semen, but then it's kind of coming into like an abundance of semen where it's like, okay, like we've got a lot here going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of that and we're going to reabsorb it back into the bloodstream and redistribute it through the body. And now here comes a bit of a fight for resources. You have to understand there's a battle between in every man between his balls and his brain. And this battle is real, not just psychological, but for now we're just talking on the biological level. What happens is because you've retained and you have a lot of good nutrients and phosphate and zinc and your testosterone is being stimulated, your body is starting to redistribute all of those nutrients through the bloodstream. And it first starts by one, storing for reproduction. Now it's got enough for reproduction. It then, two, starts to repair you at a cellular level, and it starts to send nutrients into your body in which you need nutrients. So a bit of that liver damage gets some nutrients. A bit of that lung damage gets some nutrients. It basically puts you into a state of healing.
You can heal yourself. Wow. It's like
you start to heal. And this is where guys will experience things like thicker hair. Yeah. It doesn't totally solve the problem, but a bit thicker hair, brighter eyes.
I just let my hair grow recently.
Okay.
I didn't know that my hair is so thick. Before I was a monk, my hair was very thin.
Yes.
Yeah? And now, 13 years later, I let my hair grow, and all of a sudden, very thick.
Amazing. I grew a beard after practicing semen retention. I could never grow. My hair was always thin, right? Always thin. And I generally keep my hair like shaved. But I started to grow a beard after practicing semen retention. Brighter eyes. Guys have this shine in their eyes. Their voice sometimes gets deeper. Every guy is different. So because everybody has a unique physical body, just like we have unique fingerprints, the results are a bit unique in the sense of, but overall, the principle is you will notice more masculine qualities. Easier to lose weight, easier to gain muscle, more energy to work out, athleticism. That's why athletes do this, because they know it gives them that extra drive. It gives them an edge.
Before the box ring, before the fight.
That's right. Yeah. World heavyweight champion David Haye said, no sex, no ejaculation 6 weeks before a fight. He had this saying even that he says, even if a woman would approach me in a dream, I would say, no, I need that for my fight. Right?
I have a bunch of questions. I try to fit it in.
Okay, yeah. You got to interrupt me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting because there's a difference between an orgasm and ejaculation. Yeah.
Yes.
And for a woman, like what I know is they don't lose this energy like we do. Yeah.
That's right.
Because they don't ejaculate like we do. They have an orgasm.
Yes.
Can you speak about it? What's the difference? Like, it's a misunderstanding. Yeah.
Yeah. So orgasm is an energetic pulsation, and ejaculation is the physical semen leaving the body. So because in a man, because our pulsation of energy and our awareness during any kind of intimacy or self-pleasure is in the genitals. Remember, where your awareness is where your energy is. So because our awareness is all in the genitals during sexual activity, when we have that pulsation of energy, we have an ejaculation.
When we just think about it and already it goes down. Yeah.
The body goes where the mind goes.
Mm.
So non-ejaculatory orgasms, which is like what I practice so that I still have intimacy with my wife and still make love with my wife, but I still regulate my ejaculation, is non-ejaculatory orgasms where you learn to draw that energy up and around the body and have that pulsation as a full body orgasm. Now, can I circle back to that because what I want to do is like just kind of wrap up the biological explanation,
Yeah, sure.
then the mental, and then we could talk about the energy of it, just so it has like a sequence of like
Okay, okay.
evolving.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Did you have another question though, based upon what I said so far?
Yeah, my question was also related to why do men feel so depleted? I mean, you answered it kind of, but when we connect sex with ejaculation, yeah,
Yes.
and it feels like we can't resist, we have to do it, yeah. But then after that, we don't feel good, we have no energy, we feel guilty and shame. Where is this shame? Where is this guilt coming from? And why, after long time of practicing withholding your semen,
Mhm.
after 2, 3 weeks, you can't kind of hold it anymore. It's such an urge to release.
Yeah.
And how can we transmute this energy, which helps us then be in flow, to be in control? Because now
Yes.
we control completely by the urges, by the body, by the senses.
So yeah, it's a great question. So to go to why do we can't feel like we can't control it? So there's a couple reasons. One, we can, but most of us have been introduced to self-pleasuring at such an early age that we've trained our bodies that once it reaches a certain amount of stimulation or energy to deplete. So we've associated that once I have a certain amount of energy, I need to get rid of that energy. And so our ejaculation is governed by the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is what gives us our fight, flight, freeze. I'm hungry. I'm horny. I need to go to the washroom. All of our base animal responses to life. The parasympathetic nervous system, running from the base of from the stomach to the brain, gives us our higher intelligence, and essentially is, you can almost argue, what makes us human, right? Allows us to meditate, allows us to contemplate, gives us access to higher intelligence. Because we associate sex completely as a base animal response, and because we've trained ourselves in that way, there's been no higher education in the modern world around sexuality. It's all just base desire. We think of it as a pleasure. So we're just thinking that the highest pleasure is the ejaculation. And so we've made this mental association that sex means ejaculation. And we've trained our nervous system to only hold so much amount of, can only basically have so much energy before you deplete. So I like to use the comparison to this cup. Let's say this is 1 cup of water and I want 8 cups of water. I'm at a lake. There's an abundance of water. What's the first thing I'm going to need if I want to hold more water? Bigger cup.
Your cup. Yeah.
The body is the cup and the water is the sexual energy. So when we start practicing semen retention, the water, the energy gets filled. So when I first started practicing, I could go like 7 days before my cup was full and I needed to ejaculate. I was like,
And then
I got to rub
explode.
one out, man.
Yeah.
Right? But then as I started practicing what I call sexual alchemy, so the transmutation of this energy, what I noticed is I could go from this cup to a gallon. Then I could go 2 weeks. Then I would be like, I got to do it. Then over time, 3 weeks, 30 days. I remember the first time I went 6 months without ejaculating while still having making love to my wife. I remember the first time I went 90 days At that point, I had this psychological switch happened in my head where I recognized I can almost do anything I set my mind to. There's a psychological benefit that I'd like to get to, but that happens with this practice that's even more powerful than the biology. The biology in itself is powerful. But what is true for the physical is true for the mental. They correspond. It's called the law of correspondence. Every plane of existence is corresponding or acts within the same laws, just on subtler levels. So the mind, the power of mind that comes with this practice, in my opinion, that's the real gold of the practice. But from a biology perspective, we get like that simply because we've trained ourselves from a young age that once we get aroused, to deplete. And this is the lack of depth of understanding of what sexual energy is. See, because most of us are trained that when I'm aroused, we only think terms in the physical expression of that energy, then we only think of like the ejaculation as like the pinnacle expression of that energy. But once you start to retrain and you go into a deeper dimension, well, what is S3X energy? It's creative energy. So when I'm aroused, or when someone's aroused, when a man's aroused, you'll also notice he will produce his best creative work. If he's an artist and he goes and paints pictures, let's say he's a painter, and he becomes aroused, in his state of arousal, he'll have some of the most creative ideas and potency in his work. If you're a speaker or a preacher and you have a ton of sexual energy within you, that will come through in the vibration of your voice. It'll become magnetic. If you are
connected to the sacral chakra,
that's right,
which represents creativity.
Yeah. So once I made this switch, once I started understanding, I like to use this analogy. I said, look, if you want to know somebody deeper than a physical, like let's say you meet somebody and you hook up with them, you're in the club, you meet, you hook up. You don't know that person because you only know them at a physical level. In fact, if you get to know them, you might be like, oh, what did I do? Right? Oh crap, right? Right? If you want to know somebody, you actually have to know them in a non-physical way. Then you get to know them mentally, emotionally, and essentially spiritually. So similarly, if you want to know sex in a deeper way, you have to know it beyond the physical expression. And that's part of the practice here. Let's get to know sex. Let's explore it. But let's explore it deeper than a physical expression. How does it affect us mentally? How does it affect us emotionally? And what is its effect on us spiritually in our consciousness? So as I started to retrain and recognize that, oh my gosh, I've been depleting my creativity. I've been depleting my life force, my drive. All of a sudden, the motivation to become more selective of how I used it was there, because what I recognized is that when I retained, I also started producing more potent work. It came through in my voice. And as a coach and as a trainer, that's important.
You can't resist, actually. I mean, when you hold back, you get so much power and strength and inspiration. And you need to express it, and then you share it with others. And
That's right.
The energy just flows, and you're kind of a vessel.
That's
of
right.
Divine inspiration. Yeah.
You want to still penetrate the world.
Yeah.
Right? See, it's the same quality. I still want to penetrate the world, but not with my dick. Right? Just to be very blunt and frank.
Yeah.
I want to penetrate it now with the intelligence that I've been given, the wisdom, the knowledge that I have, the creativity. This comes out in every guy differently depending on his natural dispositions. This is what I mean by unleashing your God-given abilities. Let's say a guy's an artist. He's going to want to do his art at the highest levels now. He's going to want to show the world his art. Guys love to send a dick pic. Well, now he's going to be like, well, I want to show you my art. Take a look at that picture instead, right? If a guy's very intellectual, he's going to want to show you his intellect. He's going to want to use his intellect to help and to serve. If he's mechanically inclined, he's going to want to build things and create architecture. And all of a sudden, instead of this mundane world where every neighborhood is built the same and everything is just fresh off the industrial press line, we get back to individual creativity and expression which is going to bring so much beauty, so much variety. Look at nature. Look how like just the abundance of variety that God has in his mind and what he's produced on the physical level, that's going to flow through you. And that's the psychological benefit of the practice. See, as you begin to retain, not only do you get empowered in your physical qualities, you get empowered in your masculine creative qualities. And this also helps clear up things like brain fog, anxiety, social anxiety, the desire to want to connect with people, but not on a physical level, but just be like, call up your boys again, like when you were a kid and say, let's go ride a bike. Let's just go hang out. You put 2, 3 guys together, you're going to have some craziness go down. But if the whole conversation is based around drugs and getting laid, then the conversation is just about that and it becomes mundane. But think about when we were kids and we would come together, we would create games and we would play in community, and all of those things naturally come out when a man is more chaste. And it doesn't mean he's giving up S3X. It just do what the wisdom traditions tell us to do. Get married. Get into a relationship. And you'll also notice that you're more committed in that relationship. You can enjoy S3X. I say S3X, as we've been saying sex. I'm so used to saying that as part of my content to not get picked up, right? But, right, cool. To enjoy that intimacy, and it actually changes intimacy. You talked about non-ejaculatory sex, right? When I started practicing that with my wife, and I started making the focus intimacy and love making and connecting as opposed to just getting one off, all of a sudden it changed the love making. Now I want to be present with her. I want to please her instead of being in my head trying to mimic what I saw in adult content.
Because our conception about sex is completely based on pornography, and it's like watching a movie. Like, it's completely illusion. It's not reality.
Yeah. It's not reality.
In real life, it doesn't feel like that. The woman doesn't want to be treated like. I mean, there's some.
Yeah.
But it's.
Well, the unfortunate part is that women now feel that they have to behave in those ways to get the attention of a man, for their man to love them, for their man to be with them. Mm-hmm. So the feminine energy by its nature is very wants to please, wants to nurture. What do you want from me? And so this is the responsibility of everyone, is to recognize not only are we as men losing out on so much love and intimacy and pleasure because we're trying to mimic this fake nonsense that's only just messing with our hormones, but we've also then are pretty much asking our women to degrade themselves to do these things. So it's totally skewed. That's why I call it the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. We're totally off of the natural, healthy expression of sexuality. And women, women will want to please their man. And so if that's what he's into, then she may, go along with that. But, I think that women deep down, at least the women that have heard my work and have connected with me and my wife, and we are so open, we've had tremendous conversations. Yeah, sure, there's time for what I call hot, passionate, I just can't keep my hands off you, rah. And there's also a pleasure, a deeper pleasure in intimacy, love making. Myself and my wife, we practice something called carezza. Carezza is literally means caress, where it's a much slower, deeper, intimate type of intimacy. And it's beautiful, it's pleasurable, and you can experience non-ejaculatory orgasms, energy orgasms, because your energies just raise. Myself and my wife, we've had great spiritual experiences of deeper bonding and connection through slower, intimate intimacy. And then there's times where it's like, hey, I just, rah. We'll just leave it like that. Rah.
Let me just summarize, and I had some chain of thoughts now.
Yeah.
When I was young, 6, 7 years maybe, I didn't have sex, but it started already to experiment. I mean, imagine that with 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And I was told since my childhood that sex is healthy, that sex is good. It is advertised everywhere. Do you think that's wanted that to keep us small, to keep us depleted. Because if we use sex as free X in the right way, yeah,
Yeah.
to connect with the partner, to experience a spiritual connection, to get children, we heal ourselves with semen retention. Yeah, the pharma
Yeah.
industry would be not so present.
Oh,
I
they're
mean, I don't want
cashing
to
in.
open the rabbit hole now, but
Totally. Yeah.
I just when I hear you speaking, I feel like our biggest problem. I always tell people I'm coaching, stress is our biggest problem in society. Everyone is stressed,
Yeah.
but that we lose our semen, the way we deal with sex in this perverted way, actually destroys whole society in so many ways. Can you
Yes.
state it?
Yeah. So first of all, Big Pharma's cashing in. Right now, Big Pharma's prescribing more testosterone boosters to men than ever before.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, because men are feeling low testosterone, so they're
Mm.
going and seeing their doctors, and their doctors are saying, "Well, your testosterone levels are low," and instead of giving them healthy, practical solutions like change your diet, get lifting weights again. Remember, our forefathers not too long ago, like 100, 200 years ago, nobody was sitting in front of computers all day long like we are today, right?
Yeah.
We were in the field working, we were building buildings, we were, on the land, we were out, you know? We're now sitting around all day. So sedentary lifestyles are lowering T levels. Then add the depletion of our semen, lowering our T levels. And then add the propaganda machine on top of that, which is like, just go have at it. And that's because it, one, makes us easy to control. So why is sex being advertised so much? It keeps populations easy to control. Because when everybody's in their base responses, they're only thinking about food, comfort, sleep, and the next time they're going to get laid, which is it's an animal. So if you know how easy it is to control animals, right? So if you keep your population at an animal level, you can drive them to go to work, survive, and then just fill them up with pleasures, and they'll be distracted by the fact that they're being enslaved.
Mm.
It also, so it keeps our consciousness low, which higher consciousness means higher freedom. You can't control a guy who's free. When you
Yeah.
find God and you recognize God is within me and I have a personal direct relationship with God, my authority is not the government. My authority is not some dictator. My authority is God. My authority is the wisdom, the scriptures. That's bad for business. That's bad for the economy, right? That's bad for the way the structure of the world. It's not really bad for business or economy because a God-conscious society will become a very wealthy society. You imagine you put a bunch of men, so Vaishyas are specifically businessmen. So I coach a lot of businessmen and they practice retention. Steve Jobs did it. He was documented. His partner said they would have non-ejaculatory sex and he would literally say, I need to keep that for my power and my business, my creativity. He
Mm.
understood and he knew that actually, if you want to be a great businessman, you need to be in flow. You need to be in a great rhythm. And you cannot be depleting yourself of your power. So imagine if the businessmen of the world were to practice dream retention, you would get more trading, more economy, more creativity, more solutions to problems. If semen retention was practiced by the masses, you would get way more. Your labor force would be insane. Like, you imagine a bunch of men hopped up with high testosterone, and we've seen that as a bad thing. Oh, men with high toxic masculinity is what they love to say. It's
Mm.
nonsense. It's propaganda. It's meant to actually keep men weak because the masculine energy is the pillar of the family core. And if you want to break up the family core to reshape a nation, to reset a nation or an economy, which is what the elites are trying to do right now, not all, but a group of them,
Yeah.
World Economic Forum, all right, they want men depleted. Because there's your army gone. This was used in military tactics. This goes way back. In World War I, Germany started experimenting with psychological warfare, and no country is innocent of this. So this is not a German, American,
Yeah, yeah,
Palestine, Israel issue. They all do it,
yeah, yeah,
all of them.
definitely. Yeah.
But Germany, I know Germany started experimenting with adult content as propaganda as part of their psychological warfare. In World War II, American troops dropped adult content on Nazi troops before they would attack to distract and deplete their men. The Japanese have military documents talking about how to make paraphernalia with women on it to give out and widespread. The Israelis locked down a part of the Palestinian, what is now Palestinian. I don't want to get into that debate because I am politically apolitical. I don't care. We're all spirit soul, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I just,
But it's
it,
still
it,
everywhere. You see it everywhere. Like,
yeah, they're all guilty of it. So nobody's innocent of this. They've all
yeah,
done it, right? They all use it against each other, and it's evil. What they do, what the Israelis is, they lock down a piece of what modern Palestine is. They locked them down. They took over the government broadcasting stations, and they played adult content. They made adult content free and played it 24/7. So you were locked down in your home. See if this sounds familiar. You were locked down in your home. You weren't
yeah,
allowed to go outside, and they made adult content absolutely available. See, right now we have these devices. So what happens is the psychological warfare is now being used, and it's being distributed right here.
yeah. To small children, to everyone, all the time,
Everyone. Yeah.
nonstop.
Yeah.
I just a few days ago started using an app blocker.
Okay.
Yeah, to have 12 hours no phone every day.
Nice.
Because everything is there. I mean, I don't see porn sites anymore and stuff, but it takes so much energy away. What to speak about all this adult content, yeah.
Yeah.
Wha-
35% of all internet downloads and searches are adult content.
One thing, like when I ejaculate, when I lose semen, I feel more dumb. I can't
Yes.
study scriptures. I have no interest. I even can't work. Like if I have to do a podcast now or do some coaching or some workshop, if I lose semen before, I can't do my job. Yeah,
Yes.
it's just in the outside because I learned it and I know what I'm doing, but I can't feel it. I can't go into it. I'm not inspired. I have no enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So it's like my whole life depends on that. Like, as a man,
Yes.
depends on how I use this energy.
Because it's life force. That's why actually to give up your ejaculate is a sacrifice meant to give to produce new life. Other than that, it's meant to keep within you because it's your life force. That's why I tell men, guys talk about being a high value man. A high value man is a man who sleeps around. Well, anybody who is easily accessible isn't high value. High value, we know in the market, if something has a lot of valuable, not everybody can get to it. So we deem it valuable. So I say the opposite. A high value man is someone who is actually very, very conscious about how he spends his energy. He will not spend it fruitlessly because he recognizes the value in it. And I totally can relate. Any man who's honest will relate. If I went and ejaculated right now, I'm doing another podcast interview and then a few coaching calls this afternoon. I'll be done. I'll be like, I just want a nap because
Mm.
that prolactin will be released and that enthusiasm will be gone.
And you can't
See,
think. You can't
yeah,
make sense. Like it's
yeah. This is the
like
battle
everything is
between your
stuff.
balls and your brain that I was
Mm.
explaining. So remember that so what happens is when you retain, so it's just to loop back around that and to loop that thought, when you retain, you get filled with sexual energy, which is life force. It redistributes all the nutrients and the proteins and enzymes around the body through the bloodstream. But then, as you continue to retain and you continue to regulate that, then what happens is, see, semen, spinal fluid, and your brain, the finer tissues and the cerebral fluid are all made up of the same thing. So what happens is then your spinal fluid becomes replenished. And then this energy begins to travel up the spine. And then eventually it reaches the brain. And when it reaches the brain, it starts to actually repair and create the finer tissues in the brain, which is better. That's why your brain fog goes away. You're smarter, you feel sharper, your memory increases, your synapses, which is your firing off of neurons to be able to access information, increases. Hence your natural charisma, intelligence, focus, and also your brain starts to vibrate at a higher level. Remember that your brain is not the origin of thought, it's the receiver and sender of thought. So now you're tapping into higher frequencies. This is what Napoleon Hill called tapping into infinite intelligence. The ether, Akash, the subtle energy. Now you think of a thought, oh, I want to create a business. And all of a sudden, that's why Steve Jobs said, I need that for my creativity. I need to tap into those higher frequencies so I can solve higher problems. Higher problems, you solve higher problems, you're going to get paid more. You've got the energy to actually work. And then this goes into now even a more subtle science. What happens is, think of so I like to compare the process of transmutation to ice, water, and steam. Ice, material, lust, physical, dense. As we retain, think of it like boiling the water. That energy starts to move up into the solar plex chakra and to the higher centers. Fire of indigestions, fire, it gets water, gets mixed. It starts to move up as water, sacral water, right? And now it starts to come out as creative expression and energy. That's water. So it's not dense. It's still being expressed. You can still see it, but now it's creative energy. That's your painter painting. That's your, whatever, right? Whatever you can see on the physical. Then let's bring it up even more. Let's turn up the heat more. And then it becomes steam. Chemically, compound-wise, ice, water, and steam are the same. The difference is in degree of vibration. So what the practices of transmutation does is it starts to increase your frequency to heat that semen up. And that semen then becomes water, creative expression, and then through spiritual practice, which is the highest expression, it transmutes into steam. You said the word earlier, ojas. Ojas means aura. Now this steam begins to circulate all the cells. And that's where you get that aura, that depiction of the halo, because this man is purifying now. His thoughts are pure. His words are pure. He is actually purifying his body, which is then creating him more. And this is the science of spirituality. He's literally becoming more spirit than matter. He is transforming his cells. His vibration is increasing, where he's actually becoming spiritual. Spiritual doesn't mean sentimentally I believe in God. Spiritual means I am vibrating at a higher frequency.
Yeah, and you feel God.
You feel God. God can use you because you're more on his frequency, love. And that's where you become love. Ice, lust, water, creative energy and expression, higher than lust. But higher than water is steam, love. So what is lust? Lust is love, but in its physical expression, so it's a degraded form of love. Love, God, is all loving. God is essentially way is most pleasurable, but he's spiritual pleasure. He's absolute love. And so that is the potential of the practice. Now, that doesn't just happen by semen retention alone. That's what I call sexual alchemy, which is how I teach it. And there's different forms of reaching that. But what we want to do, the Christians call it agape, selfless love and service.
Just 1 second. We are almost at 1 hour.
We can keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We can keep going another 15, 20 minutes, let's say.
Okay, because now it's like
we're getting into it. Yeah.
I forgot actually we're in a podcast. It's like just Listening to you is like, whoa.
Yeah. Where was I? Um, so,
Agape.
oh yeah,
What?
thank you. So the Christians call it agape, selfless love and service. In the Vaishnava tradition or the Vedic knowledge, we call it bhakti. The Buddha said, become selfless, become all loving. And here's the thing, semen retention is the beginning of that. It's not, you don't just achieve it just by practicing semen retention. Mike Tyson practiced semen retention, but he transmuted it in his fights, became heavyweight champion of the world. But if you want to experience higher spiritual consciousness, then transmute your lust into love. Now you're vibrating at the highest level. And I personally believe that's what Jesus Christ was ultimately teaching. I believe it's what Srila Prabhupada is teaching. I believe it's what Buddha, I believe it is the unifying factor. And that's why all religions or wisdom traditions say no illicit sex. You must control that because it is the root in which keeps you in your base desire and therefore animal consciousness.
But then we have this conception of sex is evil, sex is bad. You know, it's
Yeah.
the other extreme.
That's another extreme. And that's why I couldn't go along with the religious narrative as well. I really felt, okay, I prayed to God years ago. And I said, I would really like to be of service and do something that can help everybody, not just a particular sect, not just a particular religion, but everyone. And what I heard God say to me was sex. And I was like, I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I get it now. See, sex is not evil. Sex is beautiful. Sex is a beautiful of coming together of two people to create life.
Life, yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's like what God gave us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would be no humans.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Thank goodness someone had sex, close to 40 years ago. If not, I wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah.
Sex is a beautiful thing, but we've perverted it. We've made it lust. Lust and sex are not the same. Most of the sex that's happening is lust. And that's what we want to transform. Now, when you have a loving heart and you engage in love, even what we call it, intimacy, love making. Now we're just like, it's fucking. Sorry to be crude, but that's what we say. It's the modern world. We have to deal with the modern world as it is.
I'm lusting over you. I need you.
Yeah, I'm lusting over you. I want to just
use you. I want to enjoy you.
Yeah, I want to enjoy you. I want to just extract something from you. I want to use you for my pleasure. Not how can I be of service to you? How can I give you pleasure?
Give,
yeah, to give. But that's where that's actually when we're getting into flow. How do you get into flow? Become a giver. Live to serve. Live to give. Think about, like, if you're in business, you live to, like, I serve my students. People say, oh, you work for yourself? I say, no, I work for my students. They pay me.
How can you give so much value to your students that they will pay the amount?
Yeah.
Like, it's not about the money. It's not about, it's about how can I serve? And of course you get paid. It's a natural law.
That's right. It's natural law.
Mindset, you will be always successful because,
if you live to give, you'll never have to worry about finances or money, but it takes time. People, the other thing, the challenge with today's modern world is that because we're used to everything happening so quickly, we forget that the subtle or natural laws takes time, right? So don't worry about it. Like, go and live to give. You'll notice the more that and I'm not perfect. I'm just telling you my own personal experience. I have definitely gotten better. And as the years have gone on, I've become more loving, more giving, I think about others more than I think about myself. It's a practice, though, because the whole world is telling you different. You're going against the grain. You're like swimming upstream. If you're practicing any kind of self-control or discipline, whether with your eating or with your sexuality or regulating social, you're going against the nature of this world. the world is trying to pull you down. I like in the Christian tradition, it says this world is ruled by the prince of darkness. That simply just means that this world is material by its nature. So it's trying to pull you into the material atmosphere, that low vibration consciousness. We want to go against the grain. So it takes effort. But the beauty is the more that you catch that upward stream, and once you catch it, God pulls you because you're feeling more of his love. And that's catching the higher taste, right? Like Srila Prabhupada used that language, and so do I, which I'm like, once you catch the higher taste of semen retention and you catch the flow and you're in a good rhythm. I had a guy just earlier, I was speaking to a potential new student. He's taking a look at the program. He's evaluating whether he's going to join. He said, I really just want to get into, he said, like, I really need to stop watching adult content. And I said, that's cool. I want you to know that what makes my training different than any training right now on the market is I don't really focus on what you're not doing. There's a little bit of that. We're going to hold you accountable. We're going to track you. We've got tons of great accountability systems and support systems to help anybody who wants to give up adult content or any misuse of their sexual energy. I can help you with. I said, but what makes this program different is we're more focused on what you are going to do and how you're going to use that energy, so much to the point, because this is exactly what happened to me. Because he said to me, you don't watch adult content anymore? I said, no. He said, you don't masturbate anymore? I said, no. I said, it didn't happen overnight. I said, it took me months and years. But I said, but eventually I got into flow. I said, I'm in such a good rhythm right now. I get up. I meditate, I pray, I go to the gym, I do my alchemy practices, I'm up early, I get into my work day. We're having tremendous amounts of success. I'm now starting a preaching program called Walk in Christ, where I'm going to be sharing, I'm basically marrying everything I've learned from the different traditions and showing how Jesus embodied that. And I want to unify people and recognize even Christians themselves. I want to challenge Christianity to be like, look beyond. Like he taught everything, but you've kind of dumbed it down to these, like this just kind of weird dogmatic way. I said, I have all this energy to do this. I feel amazing. I really feel God's presence in my life. Why the heck would I watch porn? Why would I do drugs or drink? I'm drunk right now on life, and that's because all of those things, it's that we're meant to be high. We're meant to be drunk in love and life and spontaneous. And that's why we do the drugs and the alcohol. It's all trying to get that.
Yeah.
But that's all temporary. And that's going to just lead you into a cycle of addiction. If you go within yourself and you clean up and you purify the body, which naturally purifies the mind, then your consciousness, your mind becomes clear. You can see, you can penetrate this world and see the deeper truths. You can have deeper spiritual realizations, and then you can see God in everything, not just in the temple or the church or in the mosque or synagogue or wherever. You see him in you. You see him in the art. You see, oh, the whole thing is God. And then you just serve. You're just like, I'm in love. That's the highest expression of semen retention. And that's what I'm going for and what I'm hoping to inspire other men to go for as they wish.
I had just recently Keshav Swami speaking about the 3 steps to spiritual flow. And you also covered all of them today. Because you started your talk about purpose. Yeah. People don't have purpose, and when we retain, we find our purpose. And that's what Maharaj Swami said, that first find your dharma, find your purpose in life.
Yes.
And then use that purpose to serve.
Yes.
As soon as you start serving others, naturally you will be in flow.
Yes.
And then the ultimate state of flow is align with the divine.
Align. I love that. I love that. I'm totally taking that. Align with the divine. I love it. Yeah.
Dharma, seva, align with the divine,
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's like, it's a science, right? It's a formula. And every religion teaches it in their own ways and presents it to their own culture and time and people. but the essence is the same. Know your dharma, which is know your nature. What's your duty? So as men, we should ask, what is our nature? What is our duty? Then, like my whole tagline is, I help men master their sexual energy and unleash their God-given abilities. So how do you do that? Well, first is self-control, discipline, some regulation, which then helps clear the mind up to find your purpose, to find your talents, to start to use that in service of others, start to improve other people's lives. You'll feel tremendous joy and fulfillment, which will keep you away from the lower things. And then take it up a notch. Add prayer, add devotion, and get to know God. And, as Maharaj said, align with the divine. It's beautiful.
I have one more question, if it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Observation I had. You mentioned the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, and I feel like sometimes we can overthink this topic about semen retention. Oh, I'm so fallen. I can't do it, and you put all your energy there. And then what I'm teaching people is breathwork, meditation, mindset, frequency, raise your frequency, abundance, feel the abundance. And the key is the parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah?
Yes.
And is it also one of your core teaching? Can you say that we are always in fight, flight, freeze? Yeah.
Yes.
And when there is stress coming into our life, we tend to release that stress in form of sex or other ways to express this form of lust. But when we learn to regulate our nervous system, we can control our sexual urges. I mean, this is what I'm teaching, but does it also align with your understanding? And
yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally aligned. It's exactly it. The parasympathetic nervous system is the secret. Aligning and calming the nervous system, getting out of fight, flight, or freeze. This is living faith. Faith is a living experience, not a I believe. Belief and faith, in my opinion, are two different things. Belief is like an intellectual, like I believe. Faith is I feel. I have faith because I'm not worried. So what is faith? The absence of fear. If the opposite of lust is love, the opposite of fear is faith. Fear is faith directed in the wrong direction, in the negative. I'm fear there's going to be problems. I have faith there's going to be problems, right? I have fear. Faith is I put my trust in God. I align with the divine. I put my trust in the divine. I know that the divine in me, he's got my back. It's got my back, however you want to say it. And the divine is flowing through me. Jesus said, I and my Father are one. He didn't mean one like they are one thing. He was talking about a relationship. He meant one as his will is my will. What he wishes, I wish. So me and my Father are one, meaning the more I align myself, my nervous system, my chakras, my hormones, that means I can't be indulging in all of this nonsense that are making all that out of whack. Then the divine light can shine through us and express through us. So it absolutely aligns. And the more you control your nervous system and regulate it, then semen retention, all these things become easy. And this whole mindset of like, I'm so fallen and, I'm so guilty. Oh, drop it. Just drop it. Like you and everybody else. There you go. Like I'm like you admitted, I smoking weed, doing drugs, watching porn. I've admitted on how many podcasts now, and just like I've been like all over. Like, I've watched porn, I remember starting a talk. I did a talk here locally. I got up on the stage. The first thing I said was, I have watched pornography.
Oh no.
And everyone was like, and I'm like, now that we've got it out the way, statistically, so have all of you. So let's just talk about it now. So see, no shame, no guilt, no regret. The shame, the guilt, the regret, the egoistic, I'm so fallen. So are we all. We're all here in the material world.
I also meant more this way that we overthink semen retention instead of focusing on the higher goal. We
Yes, you're
focusing
correct.
on semen retention too much, and then we get caught up in our mind,
Yes, I see.
and we I can't do it, and you know, and also the shame and guilt, of course, but because we don't have this, what is the goal? You know, like we need to. It's
That's
not
right.
semen retention at the end. We don't.
No, no, I have a video on my YouTube channel where I specifically said semen retention is not the goal.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the goal is to align with the divine,
Mm,
to get into flow, to serve, to unleash your God-given abilities. The vehicle is semen retention. And it's not just semen retention, it's a whole lifestyle. It's to
mm,
purify so that we can align with the divine. We can make our channel. This is a conduit. So Jesus said, this your body is a conduit for spirit to flow. That's said in the Bible, right? What it means is that the divine wants to flow through you, but you have to align with the divine. So therefore, you have to purify your system because this is nothing more than a conduit. So I just compare it to like a think of like a I don't know like a radio tower. Well, if the radio tower's all dirty, you know, or let's say a light bulb. You get the light bulb and it's all dirty.
mm.
You know, it's got a bunch of processed foods and porn and, you know, whatever else the world is feeding us, right? Then how, even though the soul, the light inside is shining, we can't see it because it's all dirty. So we can't see it. Where's the talent? Where's the charisma? Where's the enthusiasm? We can't see it. It's there. So what do? We don't have to do anything. The soul is pure and beautiful already. It's nothing can touch. You know, what does the Gita say? Nothing can touch the soul. No wind, no fire can burn it. No wind can wither it. No water can. The soul is pure already. We just have to clean the light bulb, the outer layer, the body
Sorry, yeah.
and the mind. And once the mind and body becomes clean, there it is. There's the soul. There's the divine within every living entity, shining God's goodness and greatness.
Wow. um, I told you already, but you still inspire me since many years. Once a week. Sometimes I can't do it, but mostly once a week. I'm watching your YouTube videos, sometimes old videos,
Yeah.
because we forget. And
Yeah.
it's so important to hear this message and to keep inspired. And I go for a run usually, put my earphones inside, and I listen to you. And I just run like anything, you know, and it's so inspiring. It gives me strength, conviction, hope. Yeah. So it's what you give is so valuable.
Thank you.
And I hope that more men, people, everyone can hear your message because it's so deep. It can change everything. It can change the world. And this is really what is this podcast about, to go beyond. Yeah.
Mm.
Beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the misconceptions of reality, to really find yourself. And I mean, it's not your teachings, you just
No.
learned it, practiced it,
Yeah.
applied it, and now you're so full of creativity, inspiration that the vessel explodes. It needs to go out, and that's why you shared with everyone. And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I'm in your WhatsApp group, and I see how people changing and sharing the progress. 70 days, 90 days, 1 week, yeah. You know, and for the first time in their life after 30, 40 years, they 1, 2 weeks without losing semen. That's a big thing. And you can
Huge.
feel it. I mean, I feel after a few days already, you feel like a different person. You feel empowered. You feel masculine. You feel happy. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great blessing. And I hope whoever watched the video till the end can somehow find their way to you and get in touch with you. So, what is the best way to approach you? Or
Yeah. Best way is just go to my website, nikuladas.com, and everything is kind of linked. It's like a hub where you can send me a message directly. You can book time on my calendar. And then if you social media, I'm most active on Instagram, which my Instagram is probably the best place to follow me day to day, daily tips, daily inspiration, all kinds of great stuff there. And from there, as well as I always recommend subscribing to my YouTube channel because I do release one video per week. And you know, YouTube is nice because you can go deeper than just reels and posts.
yeah,
And so on my YouTube channel, I go deeper into the subject. And I think I have now over 1,000 videos on the subject of transmutation
wow.
on my channel. Yeah.
I researched a lot on YouTube, and I think you're the number one guy who speaks about this. There's many people talking
Yeah.
about it, but some I listen. It's very artificial. You hear something in the shade, and when I listen to you, I can really feel it. I'm there. I'm experiencing it just by listening to you.
Oh,
So I will
thank you.
link all the videos in the description below. I have now 20 more questions. The time is up, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you will find time. We have to do this again,
I was gonna
maybe
say part two. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
part two, part three, because it's such an powerful topic, man. I know many monks who would
Mm.
like to hear the message, maybe also spiritual people to understand sex is not evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the
Yes.
role with women in semen retention? There's so many topics actually,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a deep subject, and like I said, I've been studying this now close to 8, 9 years. Human transformation. I've been practicing for teaching for 5 years, practicing for 7, 8. But I say that because I've gotten better and better. So I've progressed in my own such, and I still feel like a baby. Like I'm learning so much every day about the practice, about its power. And that's the beauty about like aligning with the divine. It's what is an endless ocean,
yeah.
right? There's no end to
Ananda
consciousness.
Bodhivardhanam, an endless, unlimited ocean of bliss and nectar. Ever
Unlimited. It's
increasing, ever
true.
increasing.
Ever increase. Yeah,
Never
that's
stopped.
yeah, that's real, man. Like I'm like, whoa. I kind of like doubted that. I'm like, I don't know, because but recently, like, I'm like,
Yeah,
no, man, like that's real. We're all after an endless amounts of pleasure, but you'll never find it in the body. It's just not there. It's limited. There's some pleasure, but it's
mm,
limited. So why not go for the gold? And we can do that in the human form of life. So let's not waste this human form of life and just spend our time on animal stuff. Let's
yeah.
get into the goods, which is the spiritual stuff.
Because the animals, they have it much easier than us.
Oh yeah.
We have to do so much to eat, to have sex,
Yeah, yeah.
to defend. Yeah, we should use our God-given abilities like that. That's your message.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Use it, use it, use it. Don't waste this life just chasing the next nut.
And my brother, I really love you for what you're doing. It's so valuable, and I really like. I'm so inspired right now. I don't know what to do.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. And
And
thank you. Much love to you and to your podcast and what you're doing. It's a wonderful service for the world and for people overall. So much love to you as well. I love you too.
thank you, Nakula. Ciao.
Jai.